A chill in the air, the howling of the wind, an army of monsters begging for candy at your door. Three perfectly acceptable reasons to stay in this Halloween. That's why there's Drizzly, the go-to app for alcohol delivery. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on the biggest selection of beer, wine, and spirits, and choose from a variety of convenient delivery options. It's almost frighteningly easy. So download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com.
Reintroducing the Iced Apple Crisp Oat Milk Macchiato from Starbucks. Now with Starbucks Blonde Espresso and Oat Milk, layered with flavors of apple, cinnamon, and brown sugar, and topped with a spiced apple drizzle. Welcome back, fall. Order today with the Starbucks app.
Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. I'm Danny Sheriff, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician.
Cloud. Hey everyone. Before we jump into this episode, we have some very exciting news. January 10, the next cohort of the Restore program is here. And we have put some rocket fuel on this program. We are so excited.
Yes, we are so pumped to bring you a program with weekly, yes, you heard that right, weekly live coaching. And this isn't just random, hey, what's kind of come to our mind, but this is very structured coaching sessions that we feel is vital to your recovery, meaning that we're going to get straight to the root that's holding you back.
Totally. We ran the very first version of this just at the endish of last year, and it went so well. We saw what worked, what didn't. We fine-tuned it, and the feedback was incredible. And I think it's to what you were saying, Ashley, this weekly coaching, it's not just these group calls. It's where we do food reviews for every single person. You'll have 3 food reviews so we can review your diary and give you actual feedback on exactly what you are eating as you move through the program to help make sure you're moving forward, as well as exercise reviews and any kind of advice that you need around that kind of thing. And the coolest part, which we didn't do last time and we're so excited to be adding in, is there will be email and one-on-one call check-in points as well for each client.
Basically, meaning that you're going to have the structure of how to move forward and the support all in one. It's literally the best coaching package you're going to come across. Like, I was joking with Danny, but this might be the greatest bundle in the world. Like, we are bundling all of our services to be the most effective course you could go through and get your period back.
I think that's a really great way to put it, right? We've taken the elements of one-on-one coaching that we do that's so effective, and the elements of our community, the HA Society, put it together in one and been like, okay, here's the community aspect. We're going to do these live coaching sessions, but we have developed an actual syllabus for all of it that we know through all of our experience with all of these clients. We know that these are the fundamental things you need to know, right? And so we've put that in a class with a group and brought one-on-one coaching in to help make sure you're getting the individualization that is extremely important for each person. And it's amazing. It is literally the best bundle, in the entire world.
Yes.
So we don't want to keep you from the episode much longer, but we want to prepare you. January 10, the Restore program is opening. There is 100% a spot with your name on it. Because if you're done wasting time, right, Ashley, you should just get in these people's ear.
basically, we don't want you wasting any more time to on like something that can be fixed. You're not the unicorn. I hate to tell you that you're not the unicorn. And I don't want you to be the unicorn. Come get your hormones restored, your period restored. And if you want to have a baby, let's do that too. I mean, I can't exactly help you, like,
Yeah, we're there.
the process, but we can get you ready. But we can get you ready. You can get that too.
Yeah. It's like, what is getting your period back worth to you? Is it worth waiting any more? Is it worth continuing to DIY it? Which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to actually get your period back and have it be in the healthy parameters and work hard on your relationship with your body and with food, this program is 100% perfect for you. So come and get the help of both Ashley and myself, both of us, right?
Yes.
Taking you through this program along with everyone else that joins you. Come and do it. Check out thehasociety.com/restore. Sign up for the wait list. Get ready because Restore is coming and 2023 is going to be your year.
Yes. Excited to see you there.
Nice. All right. On with the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. I'm pumped today because we have a special guest. Her name is Annina, and we're friends in real life, but we did meet through HA. We did meet. She was a member of the society. She just happened to live in Austin. And when that happens, I'm like, let's be best friends. So, I met her when she had HA, going through her journey, and she's now heavily pregnant. She could even go into labor on this call, which is exciting. So we obviously have a full story to share with you. So I'm very excited to introduce Annina to the podcast. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me. It feels very surreal, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm 39 weeks pregnant right now, so I'm in that like portal in the veil area. So my mind is like in one world and in another at the same time. So hopefully I could be cognizant enough to pronounce words.
Yeah. You know what's so crazy is like when I was 39 weeks, I was like, I'm due, right? Like it's going to happen any minute now. And then 42 weeks and like 6 days later, I'm like, what is going on? It's been a whole month that I've been ready to pop.
Yeah. I've been feeling contractions on and off for like the past 2 weeks. My mom is convinced it's any day. And I'm like, nope. I would say 2 more weeks just to be safe, but
that happened to me to all of the Braxton Hicks, and you're just like,
yes,
I know. Your stomach gets rock solid.
Yes, exactly, and it's wild. So yeah, but I know that's not. It's my body's preparing itself, but I'm not going to get my hopes up.
Yeah, so good. Okay. Well, Annina, you do have a long story.
Yes.
We're going to do our absolute best to represent that story and all of the amazing learnings along the way. But will you share a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and sort of how all of this situation happened and what it looked like for you?
Yeah. So my story is at this point, 31. No, I'm 32 years old now. I developed HA when I was 21 and I got my period back in 2021. So about a year ago, actually, I celebrated actually, it's so surreal too, because I got my period back September 2021 and got pregnant in January 2022. So literally 4 months after I period back, after not having it for 10 years. So that's wild to me because I definitely thought it was going to be a longer journey. But at the same time, my HA recovery journey took about 2 years. My story is one of having an eating disorder and then having no period even after I recovered my eating disorder from my eating disorder, and then getting my period. I did have it for 10 years essentially. So about me, I'm an acupuncturist. I live in Austin. I've lived in many places in my life, but I've been here now for 7 years. And my period journey is in a way, or my menstrual history, I guess, I relate it a lot to my mom, because my mom also didn't get her period till after she was 17, and I didn't get my period till I was 17. So that was always like in my mind, like my body just didn't work properly. It always felt like it was already broken. But then my mom reassured me at 17, getting my period, oh no, that's totally normal. That's how it works in our family. I'm genetically half Finnish. My mom's Finnish. So she's like, Finnish women just don't get their periods until later in life. And I have no idea if that's true or not. I haven't been able to, do a statistical comparison or anything of that, but that was my story. And I always really, really wanted to get my period. It was a big thing when I finally got it, because all my friends were getting it like 12, 13, 14, and I'm 17 years old. So that was already like a weird start to my menstrual journey, I guess. My periods were never that regular either. I always kind of had, I wasn't tracking it, but looking back, I think it was probably like every 40 days, I would say. I wasn't ever that aware of having like bad periods or anything. They were not that long. They're very light, and light anyway. I also became a vegan when I was 16. I'm not sure if that delayed my period or not, but I had already like been dabbling with what I would say like diet type things for a very young age, although I didn't actually develop an eating disorder until I was 21. And I did become vegan, not for any kind of body composition reason, mostly for like the animals and for my health, I thought at the time. But yeah, when I developed an eating disorder, or I developed anorexia when I was 21 in my junior year of college, after a very, very stressful 6-month period. I had been on birth control at that point for about 8 months. I had met Alex, who's my husband now, in 2019. I got on birth control in 2010, and then I lost my period summer of 2011. So I had been on birth control for 8 months, and actually when I first got an eating disorder, I came off the birth control at the same time, coincidentally, and I thought for a long time the birth control had taken away my period, not my eating disorder. I did lose about 30 pounds in the span of 2 months, so that was like very drastic at the time, but I didn't connect the two. So I didn't actually know I had HA for 8 years.
Yeah, that's like, the crazy thing is how kind of common that is. I feel the same way. I feel like it was some like 8 years or something before I even took my head out of it, peeked my head out of the sand.
It's totally crazy. Like, you would have thought someone would have brought that up to me. My mom had also not had her period for a few years when she was at that age. She was like, and she always said to me, you'll get your period back when you're happy. And I was like, what the heck does that mean? Because she said, oh, I got my period back when I got happy. And I was like, all right, that's very vague. I have no idea how to implement this program you have. So right. I was kind of living my life for a long time, continuing to, when I got my eating disorder, I did recover from it. it never got to the point where it was like I was going to die when I was younger anyway. I did relapse when I was 27, and that was really bad. But from when I lost my period in 2011, when I was 21, I lost a lot of weight, recovered, I thought, from my eating disorder, because I was no longer like using the kind of like traditional eating, what do they call it, eating disorder habits. I wasn't implementing them as much anymore, so I thought I was recovered, but I never actually gained the weight back. I always stayed at the thin weight I had been since losing the weight. I was never overweight, I would say, but I did get to, for my height, like about a 18 BMI, and my normal is like 22. So it was, for me, pretty drastic, but I was always just convinced, oh, I can just live in this thin body. And so I was living in a thin body for many years, thinking it was fine. And I saw many doctors at that around, throughout the years, and they all had the solution of go on birth control, kickstart your period. And I was just not buying that, for one thing. And like I said in the beginning, I'm an acupuncturist now. And one of the things that actually really did propel me into natural health and alternative health was my period. I was determined to figure out what was going on with my body and why it was not working. I was not going to just go on birth control and do whatever IVF when I wanted to. Like, a lot of the doctors were telling me, oh, you're fine. Like, you're not super underweight. There's no reason you shouldn't have a period. And all my, my hormones were always like, you're in your follicular phase. So it's like, okay, well, not so much, because I don't have.
We're all just in a very long, not moving,
dormant stage
phase. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in hibernation. And it's so frustrating to me too, because I've heard so many women who, it's everyone's body is so unique, but like, my body didn't ever show any of the signs of malnutrition. My hair didn't fall out. I wasn't losing my teeth. It's, things like that. I never had like issues with my bones, but it was like my period is just like not there. So it was so hard for me to, understand that, because there's women who are even thinner than I was. I had friends getting pregnant who were thinner than I was, and they were, they had their periods. So it's so strange to me, but I guess that's the way my body works. I
mean, there's so many there's so many random rabbit holes here, but let's just keep trucking.
Keep going.
Keep going.
So I guess I'll kind of skip the part where I relapsed with my eating disorder, because that's not that relevant. But I can say I definitely got worse before I got better. I had hit rock bottom before I really changed I had like a spiritual like awakening, it seemed like, because of that experience. But anyway, so in 2019, I found out I had HA because I was never one of those people who was on social media. I never had Instagram, never did Facebook, any of that stuff. So I was never, and I honestly kind of look back and I thought that was a good thing at the time, but I wish I had been more open to receiving other stories, because I got on social media in 2019 because my stepmom had gotten pregnant and there's a baby, and I just really was decided I need a baby. Like I got that baby fever. I was 29. I was starting to feel like I was wasting my life with no period and in love with somebody that I want to have children with. So it was a huge motivator with children for me. So I remember looking up on YouTube, like how I got my period back, and a video came up and she talked about how she got her period back, and it was talking about no period, now what? And I was like, oh my God, this is it. So this is 2019. And I'm like, I'm still very orthorexic. So I had been like, for years, over exercising, under eating, doing a kind of low carb, high protein, high fat diet, but and also intermittent fasting for years, for those 2 years, especially from like 2018 to 2019. I was like not eating dinner or over exercising, like had a major movement compulsion issue. But in my mind, I was doing better, quote unquote, because it wasn't as bad as I was. So it's kind of like you go through these phases of like, I'm better than I was, so I'm good, but like, no, I was not good. So I read the book in that year, 2019, and I overnight was like convinced I had to just eat tons of cupcakes and pound the peanut butter and I'll get my period back. And that whole summer of 2019 actually was like a really big deal for me in my life, because it was the time I actually introduced all my fear foods. I like wrote a list of like all my fear foods. And at that time I was like pretty much eating like a paleo diet. Like, no, I was not eating any processed food. I hadn't been eating any processed foods for years, like 6 years, literally, like not a single grain of gluten had passed my lips, like nothing processed at all. So that summer was like, because of that book, it really propelled me into this like desire to overcome my neuroses around what I thought was what my body could handle. Because a lot of it was like, my body's weak, I can't digest this. Because I would have a little bit of like sugar or anything, and I would just be sure I was having to kind of flare up. Looking back, it was probably just a stress response, because I was so stressed out when I was eating these foods that like, and for days after I'd be like detoxing from them by like starving myself. So like that was not a solution in any way. But yeah, so 2019 was a big deal because of this. But I gained a lot of weight, a lot of unhealthy weight really fast. Within 3 months, I gained like, I don't know, 10, 15 pounds of like pure fluff. It was very, very triggering, because I was very, very thin at the time and I had no muscle, pretty much. I was like skin and bone. So to like just start pounding cupcakes was like, an ice cream and stuff, like was really not what my body needed. I didn't realize that at the time. It's kind of a phase I had to go through, I guess, but I majorly backtracked after those 3 months in the summer of eating like that. I couldn't handle the weight I gained, and I immediately just lost it all. I was like, I'm done. I was like over it. So for the next 6 months, I kind of like backtracked, and it was, not a good approach for me personally. The whole no period now what maybe worked for some people did not work for me. And I needed some more structure, I think also was a big thing for me. And I actually never even calculated how much I was eating. I was never one to track macros or calories. My thing was always just eating as little as possible. So I didn't even know what I was eating. And I remember joining some like Facebook period recovery group and being like, I've been eating this much, so much. And someone was like, you should probably just track how much you're actually eating if you don't actually know. And I did. And I was not eating anywhere near 2,500 calories. So ironic. Yeah, I thought that I was. but I didn't. I wasn't. I was probably,
This is where like individuality is so huge, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just everyone's body is different, but everyone's perspective on a lot of food is different. Everyone's just like ability to guess how much food something is, or everyone's ability to eat more than others. Like it's so varied that I can see how like there's no one approach that works for.
And my metabolism had been so crashed for so long, I was gaining weight on like 1,500 calories a day, because I was like, I had been eating, so that, or even like sometimes I was gonna be hitting 2,000 calories, but my metabolism was really wrecked, I think. But yeah, so then in 2020, COVID happened, and COVID was kind of like, I guess, I don't know if it was a good thing for the whole process, but I definitely still was in a standstill. I was still really not sure where to go for help. And I can kind of jump forward to 2020, with 2021. I think it was beginning of 2021. I found the HA Society. It was because of Elise on Instagram had told me about it. I think I somehow found her profile. I forget how. And I got it was the period recovery like handbook or whatever.
Yeah, I was at your house the other day and you were like, I still have it on my bookshelf. You had printed it.
Yeah. And so I had been like trying to implement my own kind of like doing my own small recovery things here and there, but I was constantly just backtracking. It was like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Like I was very, very yo-yoing with it. And I was not, the weight gain for me was so triggering. And
yeah, it sounds like along the way you weren't like developing skills.
Yes, exactly.
Move yourself forward. Yeah,
it definitely I needed more guidance in that way. And I was really reluctant to continue tracking my macros or calories and stuff, because that was triggering too. So it was like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I don't track my food, I'm not eating enough. If I do, I'm purposely not eating enough because I'm scared to gain weight. So it's like this whole thing. So yeah, it wasn't really until 2021 when I found that book or the handbook you made, and I started to see, okay, I need to be eating 700 calories per meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner. But for me, it was like, eat a huge breakfast, eat a huge lunch, maybe have a snack for dinner, maybe have a snack before bed. But like, I was not spacing my food out properly. And I was still going like sometimes 14 hours, 15 hours overnight, because my appetite was never that great. I never got extreme hunger. I would maybe have it every now and then, but it would be like, I would have one extreme hunger day. And then the next day I'd be like, I'm over it, So it was never consistent enough. But then when I started to be like, okay, I'm eating, and then also the protein thing for me was huge, because having been vegan for so many years, I stopped being vegan in 2017, but I still was bad at implementing having a normal rotation of animal protein in my diet. So that was actually a huge 2020, being home and cooking a lot more. Me and my husband got a half cow. We started to do a lot more home cooking. Like I started getting really into that. I started making sourdough bread. Things like that were really good for me to like actually start to become more just organized around how I'm having a plan for what we're going to eat in the next few weeks. Like having that plan was really helpful for me at the time. But so throughout 2021, I did start to realize, okay, I'm still over exercising. I wasn't like doing anything as intense as I had been previously, but I was still walking way too much. I was still really like 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, 30 minutes at night, like an hour and a half of walking a day, which I thought was fine and normal because it was less than I had been, but obviously wasn't. So that was like the 2021 was a huge time to like just slowly cut things back and add things in, because your handbook was so, just motivating. And then in 2021, in the summer, me and my husband went to Europe for 3 weeks. And it was a huge healing experience for me, because I had not been there in like 7 years. My family lives there. And having gone through these 2 years of HA recovery, really, it was like, made me realize going home or going back to Europe, made me realize how, and everyone else was also commenting how great I looked, how my energy was so much better, how like and I was eating everything, and there's no fear behind it. And it was very like, I think I really settled into accepting my body at a larger size at that point, because I was still very much resistant to, you know, I was always like, okay, if I hit this BMI or this weight, that'll be enough. And it was never enough. So I had to let go of like either weighing myself or being like, oh, because, you know, in the whatever, No Period Now What book, they say, oh, if you get to this BMI, you're likely to get your period back. And I was over that BMI at that point, and I was so frustrated. But it wasn't really about the weight to me. I think it was the habits still. I wasn't actually being consistent with that enough still. So when I was in Europe for 3 weeks last summer, I completely let go. Like this weight that fell off of me, and just like eating spontaneously, just like middle of the night having a snack, like just not even thinking. I was not, probably for those 3 weeks, I was not going more than like 6 hours without eating, because there's just a way you eat in Europe. I mean, that's the way my family eats anyway, in the summertime especially. So yeah, it was so healing. And I got back in September of last year, and 2 weeks later, I felt what I thought was ovulation pain. And I had tons of cervical mucus, and I hadn't been having any of that really. And having a little bit of bouts of it, but not the whole buildup I had then. And then I had the forethought to start tracking my temperature at that time. And I noticed myself ovulate. And I was like, oh my God. And I wish, looking back, I probably should have been more like, because I wanted to get pregnant. And I think I wish I had we'd at least tried to get pregnant at that time, but I wasn't even thinking about that, honestly. Just surprising. I was just like seeing what my body was going to do. And yeah, I ovulated, and I had a 14-day luteal phase, and I was blown away, and I had my period started. And it was not like the most like heavy period at all by any means. It was only like 3 days and pretty light, but I was still really happy about that. So yeah, I had one period. Then a month later, I developed appendicitis, which was not something I had, like, you know, did not see that coming at all. Looking back, it was actually kind of a huge blessing, because it forced me to rest a lot even more. And actually it forced me to realize, because I thought the thing about getting my period back in last year was that I was sure I don't need to gain any more weight. And this is actually Elise's story too, that like, okay, I have my period now, I don't need to gain any more weight. But like, you know, spoiler alert, yeah, you do. I had to gain like another 15, 20 pounds to get pregnant. Maybe not 15. Yeah, probably about 15 pounds to still get pregnant. So that's like, anyone out there who thinks, okay, if I get one period back, that's the end of the line. It's not, it's the beginning. Definitely the beginning.
Yeah, like for everyone, there's a slightly different order of, I don't know, like events that happen, but for the most part, yeah, that first period is not the be all and end all, because even if you did get pregnant on your first period, well, you basically just start again postpartum.
Right.
Like it's still gonna be there.
Yeah. So I was still not willing to admit to myself that I still had to actually eat more. I was like, well, I've got my period back, so whatever I'm eating now is enough. So I didn't actually, and then I actually started to walk more again. It was so bad. I was looking back, I'm like, what was I thinking? But it's this part of the learning process.
A part of what's going on here that I ponder this almost daily, right? This sort of belief we all have in our head that there's like a vision in our head of what is the healthy weight for us, right? I hear it a lot. I just think like this is probably the healthy weight for me, or like I just am definitely weight restored, or like yada yada. And I think that for a big part of the population, it's just this like disbelief that health, it could possibly exist outside of the ideal you have in your head. It's so hard to disconnect what you think health looks like versus what it might actually be. And so it blows people's mind, because they are actually saying, in a way, they're saying in their head, you mean I have to be unhealthy to get my period? And I think it just blows people's minds, and it makes them unable to do that work as soon as they do. And that is why it's important that through this process, we start coming to terms with the idea that health doesn't have a look. Health is, and bodies vary a lot more than the ideal that you've been presented in our culture.
Yes.
And it just sounds like a lot of what you went through, in the early on of your story as well, was somewhat linked to that, right? Where you're just like, this can't be it. This can't be it. I'm going to go back to my old ways. Because you're leaning on something like some kind of belief, but also just not having done it any other way and just hardwired habits. But
yeah, they're hard to break for sure, especially
complicated.
after 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
We have been working with women one-on-one to get their periods back for well over a year, and it's been really effective. We strongly believe that you need a individualized custom recovery protocol that goes across nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, exercise, the whole thing. And we believe in that a lot. We're not really willing to waver from that. But what we have been doing up until now is only offering video-based coaching. And we've been hearing from you guys that that's great, but doesn't work for everyone. So we want to implement this new trial of email-based only coaching. So no scheduling, no Zoom calls. It's all through email. We do a weekly check-in, so you'll send us an email once a week with all of your details, what was working, what's not working. We'll make tweaks and changes to the plan. We'll also get you on track with learning to use the fertility awareness method to track progress. You'll get a customized program. We'll be basically holding your hand through the whole process, and you'll also be able to chat with us as much as you want, or to your assigned coach as much as you need in between these weekly official check-ins. So who is email-based coaching for? It's for anyone who is going through HA recovery, trying to get their period back. It's for anyone who has had a recovery period or 2 or 3 and is looking for help optimizing or getting pregnant or getting back to training and trying to ensure that training isn't getting in the way of their menstrual cycle. We're all about custom goals here, and everyone's an individual and everyone's life is individual. And so we want to work with you to reach whatever goal you have in a way that works with your lifestyle and your mindset, all while helping you to have a solid, healthy relationship with food, with your body, with your exercise. That's our whole mission. So if that's your mission, come and join us. We'd love to work with you at thehasociety.com/coaching. Go there, hit buy now, get started, and I'll immediately send you your intake forms and we can get started with your goals right away. So that's thehasociety.com/coaching.
And yeah, and it's funny too, because I remember someone saying that, oh, you'll get your period back when you are back to the weight you were before when you had your period last. And I was completely unwilling to admit that to myself. It took me so long. And I actually got to the weight I was when I lost my period, or, before I got my eating disorder. And so that's when I got my first period back, but I still had to gain weight to keep getting it. So yeah, and that's 10 years later too. So actually it's shocking I didn't have to gain more, thinking about how much, my body's older, I'm more developed, like I'm a woman, I'm not a child anymore like I was when I lost my period. Well, maybe 21's not really a child, but you know what I mean? Like, bodies are supposed to change as you get older. It's just normal. It's a part, it should be the expected part of being a woman. And, that's like, it should be honored. I think that we really disrespect what the body needs. And I was definitely guilty of that.
I love that. Respect what the body needs. God, that's like so good.
Yeah.
Because that is not what we are doing. Like those of us who know what our body needs, but continue to overexercise, continue to restrict food, we're not respecting our own body. And this is why it's easy for you to look at another girl and say, yeah, you deserve to eat more, gain weight. And it's okay for you. It's okay for you, but it's not okay for me, because we respect other people significantly more than we respect ourselves and our own bodies. It's upsetting.
And we just don't care as much about someone else's body as we do ourselves, like walking around in our own body. And and I also think that it takes a lot of time to like to learn to accept your body at a larger size. Cause like literally you're learning like to remap this body. Like I think it's so triggering in the beginning when you gain weight because you have to just sit in the discomfort because you're not used to having breasts, for example, or having your thighs touched together or things that are just like so triggering to you. But now it's just normal. It's my body. Now I accept it. I don't feel triggered now when I feel my thighs touch each other. But in the early days, it feels so foreign. You feel like I'm in this like alien body and I cannot stand it. It's so triggering. But the thing about that is that if you are not balancing your blood sugar throughout the day, those triggers can really throw you off. And I had to learn that the hard way. Like if you aren't even feeling uncomfortable and continuing to eat and not letting those little discomforts get to you, and you're going to completely, because like when you don't do like, does that make sense? Like your blood sugar being off balance, the adrenaline and cortisol you're produced from that stress response of feeling uncomfortable is even more heightened when you're not eating. So I found actually that as long as I was just consistently eating my 3 meals a day, 3 snacks, and being triggered all the time and still eating, I wasn't actually affected by it as much. Triggers were a lot less because I was like, okay, I'm not having this like adrenaline response every time I look in the mirror or touch myself. You know, I'm like, okay, if I'm feeling triggered, I probably go have a snack and I'll calm down. And then I feel better. If I learned that earlier, I think it would have been a huge game changer. It would have changed my trajectory a lot, but I didn't learn that because I would always be triggered and skip a meal or go for a run or something, like not what I should be doing at all.
This is a very important thing. And this is another reason why I love to tout individualization, is because yes, everyone has different levels of anxiety and ability to tolerate stress, and your recovery process will be so much better if you are putting in place things that allow you to handle situations that arise throughout the day. Like we're not setting ourselves up for success. This is why if you just eat a metric ton of processed food, you know, you're not putting your brain in a headspace that it is like you're gonna have anxiety. Just the way it is. Like we know this about processed food. And so it is finding, exactly like you're saying, when you start to balance your blood sugar, when you start to look at all of your meals and say, okay, am I eating enough in each meal? Am I being consistent? Am I persevering? Then you're doing it consistently. You're gaining that momentum as time goes. It gets easier.
Yes.
And kind of what you were saying earlier, you know, you're uncomfortable in the beginning because it's foreign, like anything in the world that you're new to. But a part of it is just sitting in it and getting used to it and realizing oh my gosh, tangent, but you have to sit in it for a while to allow yourselves to see the benefits. Like I know you didn't even mention this stuff, but I know that a part of your story was an ultimatum from your partner. And like, you know, not living a life that's like fun and spontaneous because we're so controlled and by the rigidity of our food and eating routine. But the longer you spend trying this, doing this work, you get more and more positive experiences that you then get to start connecting the dots. Hey, that was pretty fun. Hey, that was enjoyable. Hey, interesting. When I allow my thighs to touch, I might feel uncomfortable, but this body allows me to live this kind of life. And I think I like that. And so now I see the value that we were so afraid of. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, that's really well said. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's a whole. It's like it's so much more than just getting your period back. It is like it's a life lesson.
Yeah, I think it's like for very most people, this process isn't just like a little blip. It's going to fundamentally change how they approach their life, how they approach their relationships. Never again will anyone listening, you know, take for granted how freedom from their obsession, you know, allowed them to better appreciate a certain moment in life. Like something that comes to mind is probably like Christmas morning, right? Like maybe having hot chocolate on Christmas morning and not going outside for a run on Christmas morning, but actually changing the routine and spending time with your family and being fully present. Like that is a moment where no one listening will probably, like you all notice and reflect on that and be like, wow, that was cool.
Yeah. And that actually is very pertinent to my story, because that's, you know, when I got pregnant was when over Christmas was last year. So yeah, so I actually got appendicitis in a month after I got my period back. And I'm not sure if those are related, honestly. What do you think about that? Do you think potentially like my period coming back, like did something, like, you know, having so much more estrogen in my body or something could have like caused some inflammatory response that was like on the brink of, because that's what appendicitis is. It's an inflammation of your appendix, right? So maybe it was lingering there for years and it was underneath the surface, and my period, like, I don't know, caused my appendix to flare up. But maybe it was like and I was thinking maybe it was all the food that I ate in Finland when I was on vacation.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I know just as many men who have had appendicitis, so it's like, what's going on? But I don't think that anything in the body is happening in a vacuum, right? Just like we know that our period health, it's not about our period. It's about like having sufficient estrogen. And when you have sufficient estrogen, your cholesterol is in better check. Your ADH is in better check. Like we know that there's a domino effect of everything. So I think you're never going to actually know like exactly what the first domino was. But it wouldn't shock us, would it, to know that there's some, like every aspect of your life and your body is like contributing to the eruption that is for you appendicitis.
Yeah, and I actually thought my ovary was bursting when I first started getting the pain.
Right.
It was the
like,
area. I was like,
forgotten what to do.
Yeah. I was like, no, it's like ticking time bomb. But I mean, my recovery was fine, but it still took me another 2 months to get my period again. After that, in resting enough, but I also didn't eat for like 3 or 4 days when I had my appendix taken out, because I couldn't eat after the surgery. They didn't let me I was like on a liquid diet or whatever. So probably wasn't good for my body either, but I had to continue throughout that 3-month period between my first period and getting pregnant to continue to gain weight. And I think my appendix bursting kind of helped me. And thank God it happened before I got pregnant, because that would have been really bad. But yeah, so after my appendix was taken out, 2 months later, we went to, our families live in the Northeast, near Boston. So we were there for Christmas. I was there for like 2 or 3 weeks. And like you were saying before about like enjoying Christmas, waking up and having like the regular, you know, because I mean, I hadn't been home for Christmas for a few years, but definitely before then, I was not eating any of the things I was being offered. You know, I was maybe having like, you know, just eating like the bare minimum, and definitely not having anything processed. But being home for Christmas for the first time in years, me and my mom made like all our Finnish Christmas, traditional treats and stuff, and I just enjoyed myself so much. And then when I got home after that in January, I was still really, really adamant about 2022 is a year I'm getting pregnant. Like it was my 100% goal. So I was really, really buckled down to not be I pretty much stopped exercising or walking or anything like that. And started to eat really, really consistently, 700 calories at each meal, plus having snacks continuously. And like, it was kind of boring in a way, because I was eating the same thing to make sure I was eating enough for those 2 weeks leading up to my ovulation that got me pregnant. But I'm glad I did it, because I was really just like, let go of the fact that, okay, I might still need to gain weight, but that's fine. I'm going to get pregnant, so I'm going to keep gaining weight anyway. So whatever. Like this saw it as like, it's part of my pregnancy, even though I'm not pregnant yet. I kind of like saw myself as already pregnant, and the weight I'm gaining is for that purpose. So whatever. So for those 2 weeks after coming home for Christmas, I was really consistent, really, really like disciplined around nourishing myself properly and not stressing myself out, and tracking my ovulation and tracking my temperatures, my cervical mucus and everything. And yeah, on January 12th, I had like the most amazing ovulation. Like it was like way better than it had been the last time, like the mucus I produced and everything. I was so proud of my body. And yeah, and then I got pregnant. And 2 weeks later, actually 10 days later, I would say I had what I thought was implantation cramping. And even before I took a pregnancy test, I was sure I was pregnant, and I was.
Oh, why do I feel like you text me or something?
I texted you around the time that I was ovulating. I think I did. I forget exactly when it was.
It's
but.
like the best part of my entire life, I think, is that I get to be for so many people the friend that like finds out before they're even pregnant, right? Because they're always just like we're texting about implantation, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
It was so exciting, and I've never been so proud of myself in my like and Alex, my husband, like when he found out I was pregnant, like the tears were streaming, like his like, because like you said before, like he kind of had a moment of being like, you know, you need to be like, this is like you're being selfish, you know, by taking so much attention onto just what being thin. Like how lame.
Alex is like, he tells it how it is, huh?
He's so honest. Yeah. So, yeah, painfully so, but he's been like such a huge teacher for me, and like he's just never had any problems with food. So watching me deal with this and struggle is just so, he cannot understand it. He's like, and even now I'm 9 months pregnant, he's like, you look amazing. He's like, you're the most beautiful you've ever been, like you need to gain like more weight. Like he just, honestly, there's like no limit to him because his love is just so, and his acceptance of me is just like, I never had to worry about anything like that, you know, him being unaccepted, because we first met before I even developed my eating disorder. Like I've known him for 13 years, and so he fell in love with me before I even lost the weight. So I don't know why I was obsessed with like I was staying thin for nobody was impressed. No one cares. It's so depressing.
It's a total mind mess. Before I go into like gushing and congratulating you, and by the way, yes, like you should be proud. And I felt the same way. I was like, look what I did. I followed the rules. Like the rules of like charting your cycle, and I timed this well, and I did it, and I had sex one time in the fertile window, because if all is working, it should work. Bloody works, you know. You're just like, hell yeah, right? But what I really want listeners to take away here is like, you know, Annina knew her habits and her history, and she knew she had guidelines, right? She knew what she physically needed to do. She's like, I'm gonna eat consistently, and I'm gonna wait, right? And she wasn't fully friggin', you know, mentally healed. It was still hard, and you were still afraid of, well, like, sure, let's just say it, there was still some fear of weight gain for you, because I heard you expressing it, you know, and you had to constantly you know, revisit, like have that mental dialogue. I'm still gaining weight. Oh, but this is my goal, and it's going to be the most luxurious body for this baby to grow in, and it's going to be like, it's all worth it. And like, you just kept talking to yourself about it and counseling yourself through it, because it's not, the goal for all of us is not to be completely mentally and emotionally healed from our body image issues. It's for us to learn to navigate them instead of them navigating us, because they will always be there. But the more consistently you show up and act against the voice, and the more that you practice that inner dialogue, the closer you do get to a pretty strong semblance of being very well, you know, emotionally and mentally recovered. Yes. And so I am proud of you. I think that's really awesome. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I definitely still have work to do. You know, like I was lucky. I got my period back. I got pregnant on my second cycle. So that's like, I still am no longer, I don't consider myself healed from HA, even though I'm pregnant. But I think that the work I've done in pregnancy has honestly been that acceptance piece of my body, because like obviously carrying a child, you're not going to be restricting, you're not going to be like, you know, it's been a very healing past year, because none of my habits have stuck with me, because being pregnant, it's like, it just seems silly at a certain point to even be caring about those things. So yeah, I mean, I know it's still going to be a long road ahead of me, which is kind of daunting in a way, because I know I want to breastfeed, and that means I could, you know, not have my period back for even a year. And it's like, what does it actually mean to continue to work through recovery when you're in a place where you have like lactation amenorrhea. But going on.
Oh my God, don't even seduct me on that. Like,
yeah, it's a mind trip, right? Like you've been experiencing that now for the past year. It's like, do I have HA or is this normal? I have no clue.
I know. But I think one of the great ways maybe to frame it is like that daunting, I have a long road ahead of me. Oh gosh, like, how about it's a never ending road, right? Like you're always going to be on, it's a little bit of a hamster wheel. You're always going to have to pay taxes. You're always going to have to brush your teeth every day. Like there's a ton of stuff you're always going to have to do. And being accepting of your body and loving yourself is one of those things. So everyone better just buckle up and do it, right? Because I totally feel overwhelmed sometimes about like all the things that are just I have to do forever until I die.
Right.
What? There's so many things like that. And sometimes it's really overwhelming. Like you're overwhelmed by like all that life involves. And this is one of those things that, at least for me, is on that list of like, I'm probably always going to be dealing with this, but just like doing the dishes and brushing my teeth, I'm just like, okay, sure. Like, let's do it. It's
part of being a human.
Yeah, it's just part of being a human in this world, right? Because it's not going away from our culture anytime soon. So
definitely not. Yeah. And I did voice this fear to my mother because she has 4 kids and she also dealt with HA, not knowing with HA when she was younger. And she said, I had never heard this until I got pregnant. She told me this, that with all 4 of us, my siblings, she never got her period back between them. She was like, I just got pregnant. Like, so
that's so crazy.
So like watch. She was like, I think you're more likely to just like have to watch out for getting pregnant too soon, because my 2 brothers are Irish twins. Like she got pregnant like really quickly between them. So like, that's interesting to think, okay, maybe I have to not worry about that. Maybe it's the opposite. Like actually you could get pregnant at any moment. But they said that with it when I had HA too. Whenever I would go to, I'm sure you got this too. Like you go to the doctor and they're like, "What are you using for birth control?" And I'm like, "I don't have a period." And they're like, "Well, you could get pregnant." And I was like, "I don't think so."
Probably not.
That'd be great. That would be great, but no.
Yeah. I mean, statistically now, there's just less occurrences of men just brushing past their partners and then them getting pregnant. But certainly I feel like many of us had that story where, like, my mom got pregnant easily every single time she tried, and she has no understanding of what all of us are going through.
Yeah, isn't that wild? Yeah,
super strange. And there used to be a ton of research and funds in general put towards crap like helping you to determine, like, timing intercourse to determine what gender your baby will be, things like that, right? Like fake science, but at one point we invested time and money into it because that's what you got to do. But now there would be absolutely no space for something like that, because we're just trying to get people pregnant in general,
right?
Alone trying to determine what gender the baby will be. The sheer amount of women getting treatments that honestly just have HA or similar,
right?
Astounding.
Yeah.
And that's, for some reason, it's different to what women used to go through, like your mom and my mom. And so I'm very curious what the difference is. Partially wonder, is it like exposure to stuff? I think it's a huge plethora, the cornucopia of problems that we have now that are different.
Yeah, as an acupuncturist, I see a lot of clients for fertility, and I've only had a handful where I thought that it was related to undereating. A lot of times I think it's due to stress. And endometriosis is quite common too. It definitely can, cause like scar tissue to build up in between there. But yeah,
I think luteal phase issues, my opinion, is delayed ovulations and luteal phase issues in the greater population seem to be the thing. And they're like, I have a friend who was anovulatory and she got treatments, she was like, did you know you can have a period and not ovulate? I'm like, and so that's why she got treatments. But it's like, I wonder if, knowing her personally, like, I wonder if she had made fundamental lifestyle changes with the help of like a holistic practitioner before she went that route, would we have seen a difference? And I absolutely know that there are people who need treatment, but gosh, it can't be all of them. Come on.
No. And there's a lot of things you can do in the lifestyle wise, like I had a client who we just changed like her the time she spent outside and like a few things in her diet and tweak a few. Stop drinking alcohol was a big thing. Started going outside for morning and evening, like watching the sunrise, just like going for a walk in the morning and evening, which for me would have been the opposite of what I needed. But in her situation, I was like, you're sitting inside staring at a screen all day. Get outside, move a little more, stop drinking so much alcohol. And she got pregnant. So it's like everyone's so individual. And I think a lot of it is this connection to something larger than just our day-to-day, like very toxic habits.
Yeah. So true. So we've left people with a lot to kind of consider. I'm sure many, many people are going to resonate with parts of your story. And it is, you are awesome and you did crush it. And it wasn't, I think people get frustrated too, because they're like, I feel like I listen to these stories where people were like, I lost weight, but then I just read this book and then I gained weight and then it was easy. And it's like, no, that's actually very few people's reality.
Yeah. Those stories are so triggering. Oh my God. Like, I ate a little more for 3 weeks and hey, I'm pregnant or whatever. You're like, okay, 2 years of this, 2 years. And so.
Exactly. But here you are.
Here I am.
So you're gonna have a little baby real soon.
Yes, definitely October. It's gonna be an October baby, but
yay! Well, we appreciate it. And thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I feel like my story is important for some people to hear because I always felt really motivated by stories like mine. People who are going through experiences like mine. It's not as common of a story like you said. So hopefully people can glean some with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, guys. Everyone have a great day, and we will see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women.
Hi, welcome to your neighborhood pharmacy.
Hi, I've got a prescription for diabetes test strips. How much is the copay?
Well, it depends on your type of commercial insurance and factoring in your yearly spend, subtracting the deductibles, also depending on your monthly allowance.
Why can't there be a better option?
Or you could try Contour Next test strips. A 35 count's only $19.99 over the counter and proven to be highly accurate. Go to contournext.com/radio to see if over-the-counter strips are a more affordable option for you.
I think I'll try Contour Next.
Ya llegaron los ahorros y estilos de otoño a JCPenney, con hasta 50% de descuento en nuestra venta del hogar más grande de la temporada y ahorra 35% extra con tu cupón. Además, ahorra 40% en ropa de invierno para toda la familia y 20% en juguetes y disfraces Disney. Compra con estilo, JCPenney. Ofertas y cupón válido hasta el 31 de octubre en selección de estilos. Apliquen exclusiones. La temporada se refiere al periodo del 31 de julio al 31 de octubre. Disney se excluye de los cupones. Detalles en la tienda jcp.com.